Flyers Nitty Gritty fans to Getting Gritty with It with your host, Yariv Wolok. This is the second episode of the week, a special episode with a returning and friend of the show, Ryan Marker. Ryan Marker has been playing for the Delaware Thunder for the past few years and just had a cool little journey he was on. So I want to talk about that. Ryan, welcome back, man.
Thanks for having me. It's always great being on the show.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you coming on. And obviously, I know your schedule has been a little bit crazy of late, which is understandable. I want to talk a little bit why. So those who are not aware, Ryan Marker has been working hard in Delaware Thunder. He's a local hockey player in the Philadelphia area. Recently got an opportunity to play with the Reading Royals of the ECHL, which I think is pretty freaking cool. Ryan, let's just go to the beginning of that. How was that initial feeling just to be invited into that conversation?
It was awesome. Honestly, it was completely unexpected. So my coach and owner of Delaware, kind of like hinted to me, that there was always a chance. Like when I played last year, and then even this summer, they said, like obviously depending on numbers, with like the Flyers and Phantoms, they said, there might be an opportunity that I get a spot at camp. I didn't put too much thought into it. I didn't know obviously how serious it was. And then one day I got a call from the owner of the Delaware Thunder, Charlie Pens, and he told me it looks like, it could be happening. And then literally once he told me that, within a half hour, the coach of the Reading Royals called me and, introduced himself, and, we talked for a little bit, and then he sent me like a tryout agreement, and that's how it went from there.
You're 26, right, Ryan?
Just turned 27.
Okay. Well, happy birthday. Just turned 27. And I mean, what did that feel like after, putting on all these years, and all this work? How did it feel to finally get recognized by the ECHL? Because I mean, I've looked at your numbers in the Delaware Thunder, and you're typically above a point per game player, one of the top scorers of the league. So how did it feel to finally get recognized for that?
I mean, it definitely felt great because, I mean, your average, casual hockey fan, doesn't really know any level below the ECHL,
Sure.
That's pretty far, it's pretty much the farthest they go, on the knowledge of minor league hockey. So to get, the exposure from the ECHL was huge, because I feel like a lot more people recognize that accomplishment and stuff like that. So, it was definitely huge for me. And then obviously once I heard that, I was going to be going to camp and stuff like that, I kicked, my training up a notch and stuff like that. And I mean, from the time I found out to the time of camp, I only had 3 weeks of preparation anyway. So it all went. So.
Yeah, that's not a lot of time actually to prepare for ECHL. Did they say anything specific about what they wanted from your game? Like what stuck out to them about you? I
mean, they said, obviously, I'm a goal scorer. So they said, obviously do what you do best. Plus they obviously wanted to see, the smaller things, in my game, obviously when defense and stuff like that, covering your point. If I was going to play wing, or if I'm playing center, don't be a liability in the defensive zone, get back and, help out the defense. And they just wanted to see obviously that's the little things that separate people from, the levels is certain little things in the defensive zone is you could have a player that's as talented, as you want them to be. But if, their work ethic and their defensive play isn't there, what's the sense of them being there? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely. What did you notice? And speaking to which, and those who are not aware, ECHL is full of, ex-draftees, D1 hockey players, just guys from all over the place that, some of them are probably even good enough to be in the AHL. Just maybe their game's not fully rounded out the way an AHL athlete is. The AHL is the second best league in the world. For those who are not aware of that, I don't think most people really are. I think they kind of think of it as, it's just the minors. But when you compare the minors in North America versus everywhere else, outside of the KHL is a couple superstars, AHL team could probably compete against anybody. So what did you notice about that jump from, being in the Delaware Thunder and then, going up to playing the Reading Royals? Anything stick out to you, as far as talent or changes?
I mean, I would say obviously, the players are better, overall, the players are more overall rounded, they're I noticed in the FHL, you'll have a couple of guys that are really good at one thing, but struggle at some things. I feel players in the ECHL and up are just more well-rounded players. Like they could do a little bit of everything. Plus, just like the puck movement was quicker, the players were faster. It was just, more of an tempo game. So, I mean, it took a couple shifts to get, used to it, but training camp obviously helped a lot, with preparation for the preseason games that I played in. And that was an awesome experience to be able to play in the preseason games, because we went to Adirondack and then we played back in Reading, and there were a couple thousand fans per game. So it was cool being in that environment.
Yeah, very cool, man. And honestly, 3 weeks, I mean, there's no perfect situation, but 3 weeks is not a lot of time. So, I hope next time you have the opportunity to kind of prepare a little bit more. Maybe next time you're like, well, I'm not that far away from ECHL at this point. Maybe I need to think of it as like I'm trying out for the ECHL like next time, right?
Absolutely. And like, it was a good learning experience too, even though I didn't get to stick there and stuff like that. It was a good learning experience. Like I learned a lot about my game that I didn't even realize that was wrong. It's just like little things that, like, when you get higher up, they give you better advice, and, just things that I'm going to work on for when the next time I go up there, I'll be ready to go.
Yeah. And I remember, I remember from our conversations in the past, like, you were the type of guy who you kind of started late in like your dedication to the sport, right? Like you were always talented at it, but you took it more seriously, like later in life. Do you kind of like think back, and I imagine across your mind, be like, man, if I would just like put the same level of work in that I do today, would I already be in the ECHL? Does that kind of cross your mind?
Absolutely. Like it's crazy to say, but it's a fact. I mean,
Yeah.
like when you like them guys who really put in the work from 16 to 20 years old, obviously they get drafted or play Division I or play major junior, all that stuff on your resume only helps later on in your hockey career. Like obviously if they see, a kid that played Division I or played major junior and put up decent numbers, they're going to be like, wow, I'm not going to say we'll give them an extra look, but it's more of like a safety thing. You know what I mean? Like they know they've played at a high level before, so they could trust guys like that more, because more often them guys will be better than a guy, that you invite for like, just an invite tryout. So, yeah. I mean, I get where they're coming from with things. So,
yeah,
that it was a positive experience, and I'm just going to keep working, to hopefully get back up there. I know they were telling me that they know I'm going to be local, obviously in Delaware. So they said there's a chance that they might call me up during the year. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, I really hope that happens. I guess my last question on it, did you make any connections, any like networking, any friends on the team that you kind of can take away with? I know you weren't there for that long, but
yeah, I was there for, I think, a total of 12 days or something like that. So a little under 2 weeks. And honestly, this is the first team that I could say that I've ever been on to where like every guy was, I don't know how to explain it. Like, on everything that you play on, you always have one guy, that causes a little bit of trouble in the locker room. Nothing's ever like perfect. I literally cannot pick out one thing about any of these guys, that whether from the coaching staff, the equipment manager, the owners, the players, everyone was so nice from day one. And honestly, I gained a connection with a lot of people on that team. Like once I left, I probably talked to about half a dozen of them still. So
that's awesome, and that's a positive thing to take away there for sure, and probably will help you grow your game as it is. That's
because I'll say a huge thing when I first got there, the first thing, I didn't want to make any mistakes. So like because I didn't want to, like get on like the bad side of like some of the other players. And I didn't want them like being like, oh, this kid shouldn't be here. This and that. And honestly, they were all positive. They were like, if you make a mistake, you make a mistake, we're all human. And it's just little things that like I learned, like, I worried a little bit more than what I should have with like a little thing. I guess you could say it was also my first time there. So obviously my nerves were a little bit higher. So
sure. Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like a great experience, man. And I think that's something really important that you mentioned there. Because, even like at the NHL level and all that stuff, like people make mistakes, like players make mistakes all the time. And it's like, if you let, this perfection model, get in your head, like the best players in the NHL are not perfect. Like they make mistakes from time to time. It's really how you respond to your mistakes, which is most of the time, how they're looking at it. All right. So, well, actually, let me ask you something, because this has kind of been a topic of conversation. I just want to get your perspective on it because, you're a high level athlete. And, I don't know if you followed anything, what's going on with Morgan Frost right now, as he didn't make the NHL. And then the AHL, like last game, he got benched in the third period, and then not played in over. Well, they didn't make it to overtime, but probably wouldn't have played in overtime either.
Mhm.
They had a 6-on-3 at the end of the game, and he's the best playmaker on the team, and they didn't put him on the ice.
Yeah.
And Frost, a very talented kid. From what I understand, there's no character issues with him. He missed a lot of ice time with injury over the past year and a half. He's played like 5-6 games or whatever over the past 18 months. What do you think is probably going through his mind? And, what do you think is a response typically from a player like of that caliber? And obviously you're that caliber for your league. How would you handle something like that where, that from what I understand, it's, defense and the little things that are kind of holding him back?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, like a kid like him, he's, I would say with him, obviously, he's had how many chances now in the NHL? How many training camps has he been to? Probably 3 or 4 now. Would you say?
Well, I would say maybe since 18, right? So 4. Yeah, 4.
Four, yeah. I mean, getting like, not making the team 4 times, that's a lot, like, mentally for a kid like that. That's obviously that talented. So, I mean, I could understand, I mean, I'm not going to say he has trouble dealing with, like, some people like have like a hard time mentally dealing with failure.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of them, but like, and like I actually, it's new to me that, like what I know he got sent down. I didn't know like he got sat and everything. I didn't know all that.
It just happened the other day. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure he'll bounce back. He's got so much talent, that kid. I personally think he should be in the NHL, but obviously, they see more of the bigger picture than I do. So, I mean, I so talented. Like, it's crazy not like to see a kid with that much talent not in the league.
Do you think it's more common than people perceive to see like a very talented kid kind of go through a period of struggles, deal with an injury, take a step back a little bit, not meet expectations, and then kind of pick it back up? And, because I think you have a little bit of that in your career too, right? Where you kind of weren't hitting your potential and then you started hitting your potential. Do you think it's more common than people assume?
Oh, absolutely it is. Not, sometimes, players aren't good, aren't ready overnight. You know what I mean? Sometimes it takes a few extra years, than what people like want to see. I mean, obviously everyone wants to see a kid, get drafted, just hop right in and be an impact. But sometimes it doesn't work like that. Sometimes certain players need a little bit more time than others.
Yeah. I would actually go as far as say most of the time it doesn't work.
Most of the time, yes.
Yeah.
Not everyone's Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, and not everyone's like that. Not everyone can hop in at 18 and score 70 to 100 points a year. It's just, that's why they're generational talents.
Yeah, absolutely. And I talk about that with somebody like Joel Farabee, who what he's doing is, I would say akin to what Sean Couturier did here. Mm-hmm. And even that, I think Farabee's got sky's the limit. I really don't think that people realize how high his potential really is, because everybody's, looking at Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews and all that. And it's like the kid's already could have put up 30 goals last year. And he was like 19, 20 years old in the NHL. And he's scrawny and kid doesn't miss a beat. So let's get into it real quick. Let's talk Flyers. Let's talk fun stuff. Mm-hmm. So the Flyers just beat the Seattle Kraken 6-1 in a game that was, I was at the game. It was one of the more fun games to be at for sure, especially in a while. Flyers came out and just, they got saved by Carter Hart. Really stood on his head early on in that game, made 3 epic saves. The third one being maybe a save of the year candidate where, he stops a goal at the side of the net, wide open net, and just dives over and, just denies them. And then after that, the game kind of changed. Claude Giroux flies the other way, takes a one-timer in the slot, and, just buries it top shelf. And then all of a sudden the game started just opening up from there for the Flyers, and the Flyers kind of just took over for the rest of the contest. What do you think about Carter Hart making those stops early, especially with a team that, has a history of not starting fantastic? What do you think about Hart's, early moments in that game, and, how big is that to a team?
huge because when your goalies, because obviously every team starts, in my opinion, from the goalie then up. You know what I mean? So like when your goalie's out there, making saves, kicking around, and stopping the puck, and like really playing well, it's only going to give the team more motivation. It's huge because it's only going to help the team moving forward if you can really trust your goalie. That's a huge thing, being able to trust your goalie. And I think the more he plays well, and I think he's going to have a great season. I really do. And I think he's obviously a huge part of this team. And obviously starting the season off, with a big win, it's huge.
It is huge. And after giving up some softer ones in the first game of the year, to see him just come in and just kind of shrug it off. And I would say actually for majority of that game, he played very well. It was really just the second period. Yeah. And you could say that about the team too. It's really good to see where his head is at. And let me ask you about Claude Giroux, because Giroux had that beautiful game tire at the end of the first game, in the final minutes. And then he comes in, does it again. He actually had 8 shots in the first game that wasn't really talked about, but I never see Claude Giroux have 8 shots on net. And the guy just seems really poised to have a great season. He's unsigned at the moment, going into next year, which makes me incredibly uncomfortable because I have no interest. I have no interest in watching him go in any sense. Though I can understand why he's in wait and see mode. It's at the end of his career. Maybe he's kind of like, well, if the team isn't taking a step forward, maybe I do try to go win a cup somewhere or try to get traded at the trade deadline and then worry about my contract afterwards. Try to go for a cup run. The guy deserves it. I don't think that's going to be the case this year, though. His team looks prime, but Giroux looks good so far. What do you think about a guy at 34 years old or 33 years old, not 34 yet, but 33 years old and just, coming in the way he is, blasting 2 important goals, gets the team started with one, ties the game with the other. What do you think about Claude Giroux as like a captain at this point and heading into the season?
I mean, I think, someone like him he's been on the Flyers since I was a little kid. I've been watching that guy since I've grown up. Like I never want to see him go. Like I would actually probably cry if he was let go. Like not even like he's been one of my favorite players in the NHL. Like since he came into the league. So, I mean, I think right now, he's older, but he's a huge part of our team. He's our captain, he's our leader. And I actually think he's going to have a really good season. Like a better season than what most people would expect. Like he's a huge part of this team still. And I definitely, honestly, I can't see him leaving. I can't. I think we'll be fine. I think the Flyers are going to have a really good year this year. And I could see us, going farther than what people think in the playoffs.
Yeah, man. Me too, actually. I feel like I'm hesitant to be optimistic because of last year and quite frankly, all the hate I get on Twitter.
Right.
But, I just look at the team on paper, especially healthy. I'm like, there's really no flaws here. No huge flaws outside of Kevin Hayes being out right now. But, they got strength at all positions. And I look at the top line of Giroux, Couturier, and TK, and they played very well last game. Travis Konechny looks like he's resurged. He looks vastly more aggressive, physical all around. What do you think about TK? And he scored a big goal in the first game to tie it, and then he, obviously on the power play draws a power, or not to tie it. I'm sorry, to get closer to a tie, and then he, this past game just really was just all over the place. Probably could have had more than a goal. Was extremely physical, was just up and down the ice, drew penalties, did the whole thing. What do you think about TK coming back and rebounding?
Huge, because like obviously he was one of them guys back. What year was that now? What year did we
lost a year because of COVID, so it's tough. 18-19 season, is that what you're thinking of? Where he put up 60 some points?
Yeah, he put up a lot of points that year. Plus, I mean, he's such a skilled player, and I think with him and Farabee, still being really young, they're the future of this organization, both of them, in my opinion. And obviously, I mean, having him healthy and having him producing, it's only going to help this team moving forward. I think he's a huge part of this team.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's really something that you would disagree on, but I feel like when Travis Konechny's on the top of his game, he's also involved physically. Like he drives down the middle. Go ahead.
No, like he's a pretty chippy player too. Like, he's like he'll even. I mean, I'm not saying he's not obviously going out there looking to fight, but I mean, he'll do anything, that guy, for no matter how big he is. And I love Konechny. Yeah. Definitely. What do you think about the new pickups of the Flyers?
The two new guys?
Yeah.
So are you talking about all the offseason acquisitions, or you just mean the two waiver pickups?
Ellis and stuff like that.
Well, we'll get it. We'll get into Ellis, actually. So let's get in the second line, actually, because I want to talk about two of them right now. So the second line of the night, I would say they were the ones who kind of stole the show in a sense, but just because production-wise, they had 3 goals, that line. Atkinson had a goal. Farabee had a goal. Brassard had a goal. Brassard had 3 points in that game. And I think a lot of people were counting Brassard out as being an option for second-line center, but he's looked pretty damn good in the first 2 games so far. A guy who has a history of being a number 1 center, definitely a top 6 forward. And at 34, it looks like he does have some left in the tank, at least at this point. He doesn't have to do it all year because we have Kevin Hayes coming back, but looked pretty good. I mean, my thoughts so far, Cam Atkinson looks fantastic. He is exactly like the chippy type of player that we need. Goal scoring mindset, shoots all the time, getting that goal off of or helping Farabee get that goal with a shot on net. That kind of knuckle pucked its way over and made it for a fat rebound that Farabee put away. And I think Joel Farabee, and I was saying this at the beginning, I think Joel Farabee is a future superstar. I think people think he. What would you say? Go ahead.
Sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, I mean that I don't know why people keep putting like a caveat on him. As far as like, oh yeah, he's a good player, but he's not going to be one of the best players in the league. I'm like, no, like I think he's going to be one of the best players in the National Hockey League. I see no flaws to his game. He does everything well. He's incredibly intelligent on the ice. He's a goal scorer. He's a playmaker. He drives plays. He can be physical. He plays penalty kill. He plays power play. I'm like, what is the issue? I was like, yeah. And I think he's on another level. What do you think about that line? The 3 of them together.
So far, working great. I always forget the one guy's name. Not Cam Atkinson, not Farabee.
Brassard, yeah, Derek Brassard.
Yeah. Honestly, he's really surprised me already. Like, obviously, like you said, with Kevin Hayes coming back and stuff like that, that's obviously probably his spot, on that line. But I mean, for now, I mean, he's playing really well. I mean, I've been very surprised with what I've seen from him. Yeah,
absolutely. And he seems confident about it too. I was at the press conference. He doesn't really seem to be like surprised that he's doing well, no. which I really like. Mm-hmm. I feel like confidence is key, especially stepping into a top 6 role. And some would say he took Farabee's spot, but I mean, if you look at the two together, I mean, he's vastly out, or not Farabee, I'm sorry, Frost, but he's vastly outplaying Frost at this point. So I think he's kind of earned his position there. What do you think about like not seeing Jake Voracek out there and, seeing Cam Atkinson? Do you kind of miss part of Voracek's game?
I mean, I do, but I feel like once I got like used to seeing Cam Atkinson out there, through like a couple of the preseason games and then seeing him obviously in the regular season, I really like him. Yeah. I think it was a good trade-off in my opinion.
Yeah. Like you lose some of the playmaking there, but again, it's an element that the Flyers have needed. A guy who's just shoot first. He's like tried to score almost every single play that he's out there. And he obviously will pass the puck, but if he has an opportunity to take a shot on net, he's taking it. I think it's something the Flyers really needed. So the third line in general has no new guys in it. But I will say this, it's Lindblom, Lawton, and JVR who's playing the right side, which I don't know if that's going to work all season long for have him on the right side. But I will say that Oscar Lindblom is winning a lot of puck battles just along the boards in general. And it's really good to see him get to that level. Scott Lawton, I think, has done an admirable job at center. I think he's still better on the wing at the third line position. But obviously, he seems like he'll probably be the fourth line center moving forward when Kevin Hayes gets back, barring any other injuries. But what do you think about the mix up there of those 3 guys?
I mean, right now they're playing pretty good in my opinion. I mean, like you said, like I don't know, with JVR on the right side, right? You said he's on the right
Yeah,
side.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I could see that working the whole, for a long time, but I don't know. I mean, so far they're doing decent in my opinion, but uh, I would say, uh, and I personally like Lawton a lot more on the wing,
Yeah.
like you, like personally than.
Yeah. And it's also some with that mix, and I'm not so much against it because I get like a third line, banger line, like big guys. But something about that mix, you got Lindblom, who's not a playmaker, JVR is not a playmaker, Lawton is not a playmaker. And all of them are kind of like, I guess JVR is more of a scorer, but the other two guys are more like not grinders, but they're like two-way players, right? They play along the walls, they play physical, they play D first. What do you think about that mix? Do you think that it actually is kind of missing an element? Because I feel like it kind of is.
So do I. I feel like it is too.
Yeah, and maybe long term, probably not the best solution. But we'll see what happens when Kevin Hayes gets back.
Early, they're probably still experimenting stuff, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about the fourth line. Nate Thompson. I do want to give Nate Thompson a shout out here because he had that. Did you get to see that fight?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I watched.
Yeah. What did you think about Nasty Nate getting into it, defending the captain?
That was awesome. He definitely put a beat down on that guy. That's
yeah, he was out there with a vengeance, man. And I think Max Willman, who I think is a pretty great story. Yeah, I think he's done an admirable job, but he hasn't been very noticeable. He had one scoring chance, which I think early in the second game, which I think kind of sparked some momentum for the team. And then Nicholas Aube-Kubel, he's been decent, but hasn't been playing his best hockey either at this point, even though he looked good in preseason. I do know that Zach McEwen is going to be playing tonight as we're recording this. He's a newcomer to the team. Big body, 6'3". I think the fourth line will probably change as it goes on, but like how do you see that playing out? Like, do you want to see the new guys McEwen and Brown in there over Aube-Kubel? Kind of how do you see it? Do you see maybe Nate Thompson being sat for one of the guys? Like, what do you kind of see there?
I want to see one of them other two guys play for Kubel, in my opinion. I want to see how that will go. So you said what's playing tonight, Zach?
Yeah, Zach McEwen will be on the fourth line. I believe he's going to be on the right side, and Aube-Kubel is going to be on the left side. I did not confirm that before this, but that was what was discussed initially.
Okay. That'll be interesting. I guess we'll see how that goes. I can maybe see that working. I don't know. That'll be interesting.
Yeah. And the guy, so Zach McEwen has a history of being like a physical force.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something the Flyers have kind of been. They did play very physical the other night, which I thought was good. But do you think that is something that the Flyers needed? We haven't had a big guy who I wouldn't say he's just here to fight, but he is there to be a physical intimidation for sure. And he has an offensive upside to some degree. But, what do you think about a guy like McEwen? Do you think it's like perfect? Because I see it as kind of like, it looks to me like Chuck Fletcher wants to go to the Stanley Cup this year because he's grabbing guys who, in all positions, I would say, that are a recipe to win in the playoffs. Do you see that from McEwen?
Yeah, I do. Especially, obviously Philly, we need some type of toughness. Obviously, the Broad Street Bullies, like that mentality, that we've had obviously for years. I think bringing someone in like that, who could still play the game, not just fight, is huge for our team. And I think, it's something that we need on that fourth line.
Yeah, we really haven't had a guy like that around here for a while.
No.
The closest thing we had was Wayne Simmons, but he was still primarily a top six forward when he was here. We didn't really, he wasn't here just to bang and crash.
No.
So I think it's a nice addition. Brown, we don't know. I think he might have COVID. We're not sure. He's just COVID protocol at this point. So hopefully he's okay. But I assume he'll be fine. All right, let's get into the D. We were just talking. You mentioned Ryan Ellis, so let's talk about Ellis and Provorov. What I have seen from these guys is this is the best defensive pairing that the Flyers have had since Kimmo Timonen has played here. I love Matt Niskanen, but he obviously would be playing on the second pairing. instead of instead of a top pairing role with Provorov. I just see the two of them being not interchangeable because they have different styles, but every time I look on the ice and the two of them out there, I just feel much more comfortable than anything I felt before. And so are the coaches because they're playing both of them like 28 minutes a night.
Yeah.
So they're definitely playing a lot of hockey. Ellis has been as good, if not better than advertised. I think Provorov is primed to have a career year. He looks very solid. Made one mistake in game 2, one egregious one. But other than that, I see a really, really sturdy top pairing. What do you think about the two of them?
I think that they're going to be a top 5 pairing in the NHL this year. I really do. Them two are unbelievable together, and it's only going to get better over time. And I've liked Ellis ever since watching him backing with Team Canada in the World Juniors when I was really young. And like I remember, like if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure he's like the all-time leading scorer like ever in the World Juniors or something like that. Like
let's look that up.
Positive.
Let's look it up. Let's see if I can find the answer to that while we're on here. But yeah, no, I really like Ellis's game too, and I think it's honestly given, like you're not seeing Provorov being overplayed. Like you're not seeing him in a bad position this year. Like anytime that he's by himself, all of a sudden here comes Ryan Ellis like a second later. Like I would even say Ellis made a bad breakout pass at one point. And I would say last year would have turned into a bad scoring opportunity against the Flyers. And this time, because it's like one or the other, they're both great. It's like it was just completely shut down. Do you get that sense as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They're both good in any position of the game. Like they're both offensively really good. They're defensively, I think that, like I said, I really could see that pair being a top 5 pair in the league. I strongly believe that.
I love that. And I think if Provorov gets to the point that he was playing when he was playing, even prior to Niskanen, when he actually was playing with Shane Gostisbehere, and the two of them were kind of lights out that one year, if he can get back to that level, which I think he looks like he's even better this year. I think that a lot of people will be talking about that as one of the best pairings in the National Hockey League.
Definitely.
Yeah, I love that. So here's what I found here. Canada's all-time scoring defenseman at the IIHF World Junior Championship with 15 points in 12 games. Ellis earned a silver medal in 2010 World Junior Tournament and a gold in 2009 tournament. So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember. Like I said, I remember watching like 2009. So that was, what was I? I was like a freshman in high school. So yeah, I remember. Like I said, I remember watching him when I was younger, and they used to beat up on Canada and stuff. I think that year I think you said he won a silver, right? I'm pretty sure the U.S. beat them. I forget who was on that team, but
I don't remember either. But
I remember that.
But no, that's an awesome piece of knowledge to share. Yeah, so I'm super excited about that top pairing, and I think it's the key to getting the Flyers out of the Metro is having that top pairing there. So let's go to the second pairing, and this has a caveat in it because we're missing half of it. But Travis Sanheim and Braun were playing as the second pairing, but Rasmus Ristolainen will be playing in the next game. But what did you think about Sanheim and Braun so far earlier in this season?
I thought they were decent. I thought they did their. I didn't see too many mistakes out of them. For what I watched. I mean, like you said, though, with Ristolainen coming back, I mean, he's got to be in that top 4 spot somewhere. Yeah,
I think without a doubt. So Braun did have a nice goal. And when Justin Braun's scoring goals, you're having a good night.
Yeah.
And Travis Sanheim, I thought, had a really strong game too. I thought he was fine game 1, but again, that second period was kind of a problem for the team in general. So I think anybody who's jumping on Sanheim over one period of hockey, it's like, okay. But all the other periods he's done well. So you're just blown out of proportion. It is interesting to see though, with the other pairing, I'll talk about this, how like I don't find myself focused on one defenseman as much as I normally am with this crop that we have. And I think that Braun has looked like himself completely. And I think that Travis Sanheim, with the stability on the back end, could end up taking a jump this year and getting to the potential that we thought he was going to reach, which is just produce more offensively, really. I think there's definitely a chance for that, especially at 5-on-5. And then the final pairing there, Keith Yandle and Nick Seeler. I mean, Seeler just all heart. He really doesn't make mistakes. He's a pretty solid number 7 guy. I'm not gonna lie. I have really no issues with him at all. And if he was a number 6 guy on the team, I really don't think that that's a big problem either. I think he's been all right, and I actually really like his personality. And I think Keith Yandle has been offensively a breath of fresh air. He obviously is helping the top power play, though I would argue that the second unit power play has looked just as good with Provorov and Ellis on the back end. And I do really like Keith Yandle. I mean, he's just a very poised offensive guy. Doesn't seem to be rattled at all, and he makes awesome breakout passes. Clearly has a lot left in the tank, in my opinion. We'll be playing with Braun in the future, but what do you think about Yandle and Seeler? Who had that huge fight, by the way, against Alexiak, which should get a shout out for that.
Yeah, right. I think Yandle's huge, like you said, for the power play and stuff like that. He's a very good offensive player, and he one thing he's really good at, like you said, like small things that like a normal fan like wouldn't like realize is like he has a really good first pass out of the zone. You know what I mean? Like he when it comes to like breaking the puck out, like he's rarely ever turns the puck over, makes mistakes. Like I like him a lot.
Yeah, dude.
Huge pickup.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most underrated pickups in the offseason around the NHL. At under $1 million, it's absolutely crazy to have that much talent and value. Yeah, and it's a guy like if Sanheim goes down, right? God forbid, right? I'm not concerned as much because I slide up Yandle. I don't want to play him more, but it is an opportunity. It's it's a guy who used to be an all-star defenseman. Things could be worse. And then what did you think about Sealer's fight versus Alexiak, the giant there? He kind of, he got his ass kicked a little bit, but he held his own. Yeah, he didn't get punched in the face. Let's put it that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it at least it shows you that he'll stick up for himself and his team. So it's huge.
Yeah. You see him like yelling at the crowd after the game or during the game.
I did, yeah.
What'd you think about that? I haven't seen that stuff since like 2000s, man. I never see that anymore.
That's cool. I like that stuff. I mean, it's just, it's different, but it's like you said, you haven't seen it in a long time. So it's, kind of brings you back to like, not saying what hockey used to be, but like, gives you like a glimpse of like the way the players used to be back in like the early 2000s.
Yeah, man, that was a great era. And actually, there have been a lot of fights in the NHL in general so far to start the year. Which
actually, I was going to bring that up. It seemed like when people like remember like the last couple of years, people have been like fighting, getting out of the game. I think it's making a comeback. I really did.
I agree.
Fighting like you see some of these games like lately. Like you see like the Tampa Bay and like Florida Panthers. Did you see that preseason game that they had?
Yeah,
Florida?
Yeah. It's just all over the place.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's like maybe it's because the fans are back in the building, but it's like, like I feel like there is a level of intensity. And I'll tell you, man, I was at the first 2 games of the year in the press box, and it was the loudest I have heard of Flyer Stadium, especially game 1 like it felt like a playoff game. So I do think there's a certain level of intensity that's kind of, which is great, which I think is very great for the sport in general. I think it's something that hockey relies on. Yeah, I guess, are you excited about fighting, making a comeback?
Yeah, I don't do it much. I mean, obviously if I have to stick up for my teammates, I will. But, it brings a different level of excitement to the game. And you know how it is. Sometimes that'll bring more fans to the game. Fans love fighting, obviously, in Philadelphia too. So
yeah, you're not wrong. I would predict that McEwen has a fight pretty early, for sure. So we talked a little bit about Hart, but I would say outside of the second period, he did not play well in the second period of the first game. But outside of that, I mean, he played well in the first period. He played well in the third period of the first game. He played well in overtime. Didn't do great in the shootout, but again, it's skills competition.
Mhm.
And then, I think he was lights out in game two. Looked like, franchise caliber guy that I believe he is. What do you think about Carter Hart? And what do you think about, well, I guess Jones, to preface this, Jones will be getting his first start tonight. But what do you think about Carter Hart so far?
I think Carter Hart's like I think he's the biggest piece of this franchise. I still do over anybody. Like he's been a great goal. He's people don't realize how young that kid still is. Like
I say it all the time.
People harp on like little mistakes he make. Like people don't realize like goalies are like the latest position to like fully like what's the word I'm looking for?
Mature.
Fully mature. There you go. Fully mature. And like he's doing things at a young age that not many goalies have done, and people realize that.
I've honestly been saying it before he even started with the team. I was saying it early on. I said, guys, if you see him struggle, and you panic, then you don't understand the goaltender position, because most goalies don't touch the NHL ice till they're like 26 years old.
Yeah, for real.
So the fact that he's the starter at this point, it's exceptional. Like fluctuations in performance, and I feel like you'll understand this. I really don't understand where it's coming from, and I'm hearing smart hockey people say otherwise, which really bothers me. But like when I see people jump on fluctuations in performance, and not just goaltenders, anybody, and they go, well, that's what the guy is. I'm like, do you actually watch sports? Like, do you like I maybe this is rude, but I'm like, show me athletes that are not generational or the best in the league that their production doesn't fluctuate. Like it almost right.
Okay.
Like go ahead.
How about McDavid and Draisaitl last year in the playoffs? Like look how good they did in the regular season. They got held up to pretty much nothing against Winnipeg the first round. I mean, if it don't matter how good you are, everyone goes through a slump. Everyone goes through a period of time, where like no one's going to perform 3 to 4 points per game a night. 2 out of 3 games get a shutout. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah. And it's even like the Travis Konechny thing, right? Like I was just listening to Broad Street Hockey, and credit to Charlie O'Connor, because I think he actually defended this really well. And I agree with his take on this. But like he's like, oh, a lot of people are like Travis Konechny, he's not that good. I'm like, so the kid made the NHL at 19. He has 2 24-goal seasons in a row. He has then he has a breakout year where he puts up 60 plus points without even a full season on a 70-point pace, becomes an all-star, goes through a COVID season, has a dip in performance, and everybody goes, well, that's the real Konechny. And I'm like, what? He's 23 years old.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about here? Like most players, like Frost hasn't even made the NHL yet.
Yeah. Exactly. Like
where do you think that comes from? That like people think that like at 23, 24, like that's what this guy is, when they barely played in the league. They've only been in it for like 2-3 years.
I don't know. I just think it's like just like the typical fan, like expectations. I mean, like they just expect players, to be, like the best they could be, at a very young age, and it doesn't work like that in sports. Like I said, like you said, like fluctuation in performance, like like there's so many players that had like down years and then came back and were great. Like look at Ovechkin, look at Alexander Ovechkin. There were years where he obviously had 50, 60 goals for like 2 or 3 years in a row where he only had but like high
25.
30s. Like, I mean, that's a dip in performance for him. Like, and people were saying stuff about him, like his performance dropped, and then look at him now. I mean,
obviously. And one of the most famous examples right now is Dustin Brown, a guy that everybody was like, oh, he's obviously done. And then he puts up a 30-goal year, and now he's top line left winger, playing with Kopitar again. And it's like, I see so often a dip in performance for professional athletes because it's a growth mindset thing. Like these aren't the type of people who are like, oh, okay, I guess I had a mediocre year. It is what it is what it is. They're like, okay, well, I need to work on this. So they end up like kind of like what you're going through right now, right? You're like, oh, well, I hit this peak, okay, it didn't work out exactly like I thought it would, but I'm on the right pace. Like, well, what can I do next year? What can I do throughout the year to get my game back, where I want it to be? I feel like that's the athlete mindset, not, oh, I'm 24 years old. I guess it is what it is.
No, there's always room for improvement for anybody. You know what I mean? Well, I mean, I don't know how to I'm trying to think about what I want to say, but I mean, like you said, there's don't matter how old you are, like there's 30-year-olds out there still improving. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. Mike Knuble is a great example of that. A guy that everybody thought, oh, well, when is this game going to drop off? And then just every year from the age like 28 to 35, he just kept getting better and better and better, And again, I think you also have to be in the right position to succeed. And I guarantee that those years that I haven't looked at it, but the years that Alexander Ovechkin's numbers went down, so did the players around him. Almost without a doubt that it correlates with the team around you. It is very rare, unless you're like Connor McDavid, it's very rare that you're the outlier in your team. Like your numbers go down because the rest of your team goes down. Carter Hart's numbers were bad last year, didn't play well, but neither the team in front of him. So it's like, how do you pick on the one guy?
Yeah.
So let's talk about somebody that gets under both of our skins, I assume, and that is the Boston Bruins. They come into town to play the Flyers. Like I said, Rasmus Ristolainen is going to be in the lineup. Zach McEwen will be in the lineup, and Martin Jones will be making his first regular season start. What do you think about this matchup against the Bruins? Does it make you feel better that Ristolainen, who's a very physical player, is back in the lineup? Again, Zach McEwen, a physical player, he's in the lineup. And then a guy who, we're just talking about fluctuation in performance, though, you look at it, it's consistent. He has a history of being a good goalie, but past 3 years did not have great numbers in San Jose. But what do you think about Jones getting that first start as well?
I mean, it's good, to have Jones in net, to see what he can do. I mean, I'll tell you one thing, he's going to be starting against obviously a very good team. So
that's the fear, right? A little bit.
Exactly. So we'll see how he does. And you're talking about a Boston Bruins team who definitely easily a top 3 first line in the league. That first line, they're unbelievable. So like you said, having some of them guys in the lineup, that are physical, that's the type of guys I think you need to put up against, like skilled lines. You know what I mean? I think it's honestly, I think the Flyers are going to, I threw in a little bet already. I bet on the Flyers to win tonight.
Oh, I like it. What are the odds?
The odds were
I know that. I imagine we're not the favorites.
No, you weren't. They weren't the favorite. It wasn't like too crazy. It was like plus like 190 or something like that. Plus, nothing crazy, but
okay, for the Bruins, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope you win that bet, man. Make yourself a little bit of money.
Hopefully.
I have a feeling that the Flyers are severely underestimated. I really think outside of the second period, they probably should have won that first game too. Vancouver really wasn't like dominating the play at all. It's really just the Flyers kind of gave it up to them, and they had to fight their way back. And then the game against the Kraken, I mean, they looked like they were on a whole different level. They didn't look that way once last year. I think we are looking at a new squad. All right, so let's talk a little bit about we'll wrap up with this. Let's talk about a little bit about the NHL itself. Some surprises going on, and one of the surprises I want to talk about are the Buffalo Sabres. They are 3-0. They just put a shellacking on the Montreal Canadiens. They're in first place. They're a team that everybody thought would be by far the worst team in the NHL. A team who's playing without Jack Eichel, a team that moved Rasmus Ristolainen, moved out Reinhart as well, same Reinhart. What do you think is going on in Buffalo? Do you think they can sustain what they are doing?
Yeah, well, like we said, right? Like how when people come into the league, they get that expectation of where like the fans want to see them be good right away. You know what I mean? They put a stamp on these kids at a young age. They don't realize how many like first overall picks, Buffalo's had, how many first round picks Buffalo's had. I mean, they were bound to like work out eventually. I mean, obviously not having Jack Eichel is obviously a huge thing, but like, dude, they look really good right now. That was who I was going to say my sleeper team was. Well, I'm surprised, not sleeper. My surprise.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit shy. I will be surprised if they can keep up, being in first place, but a bubble team.
I see them keeping it up.
No. Do you think they have a chance of being a playoff team, though? Like a bubble team? It's still tough.
50-50. After the first month, I'll have a better, I'll say first 15 games, I'll have a better observation of that.
But they have played well, and kudos to them, their new coach, and I think it's Tony Donato over there, if I remember correctly. So I think, and it shows how important coaching is and environment is, right? Like last year, they didn't play this well at all the entire year. And then all of a sudden now they're 3-0. So it just shows how important like teamwork is and effort and, organization is. And honestly, I'm kind of happy to see it. Like I hate seeing teams that just don't have their shit together. Like I think it's kind of embarrassing for the league. I don't like it. Like I'm okay with teams being bad, but like having problems with the media and the locker room and shipping out, it's like, come on, guys. Like people are selling. People work for these companies. It's like I don't like seeing it at all.
No.
All right. My other surprise, and this is the reverse, though I personally am not surprised about this. This is about where I expect them. Maybe not 0-3, but the Canadians have gotten their butts kicked. They have 3 goals in 3 games. Cole Caulfield has not had a goal. Nick Suzuki has not had a goal. Actually, I believe that Drouin has 2 of their goals, and the other one is Chris Weidman, a defenseman. So they are not playing well. Now, they don't have Hoffman. They obviously don't have Carey Price, and they obviously lost Shea Weber. Are you surprised that the team that was in the Stanley Cup Finals has started so poorly? I personally am not. I look at their lineup and I see led by young guys, missing their 2 elite players. I kind of expect them to be one of the worst teams in the league this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like I would say, I thought that they were going to be in the bottom of the pack somewhere. I really did. Because people don't realize how much leadership means going, throughout the year.
Without leadership. Weber.
Yeah. And obviously Carey Price.
Oh, and they lost Deneau. I should have mentioned that as well, the free agency, which that's also a huge loss for them.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're going to struggle. I really do.
Yeah. I think they'll probably get it together a little bit, but I do expect them to be looking outside of the playoffs this year. I'm not going to lie. I don't want to see Cole Caulfield do poorly, but the fact that I don't have to hear Cole Caulfield is on fire. Oh my God. Why didn't we take him? Why did we take Cam York?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that is nice to see, because I actually made I was re-listening to this video and I made a video about this topic where I'm like, why do we have to bash York because Caulfield is good? Like, why can't they just both be good? What is the issue? And I do think Cam York will get a call up this year. I think it, hopefully not because of any bad injuries, but I do think he just won Player of the Week for the Phantoms, actually. No shocker there. He's their top. Yeah, he's their top player. I'm not surprised. I'm very high on him. I guess the other surprise here, and I got 3 more. The Penguins are 2-0-2 without Sidney Crosby and without Evgeny Malkin. F the Penguins. And not really. I respect their players, but it is very frustrating to see that even without their 2 best players, they still consistently are a thorn. They are in first place more because they played the most amount of games at this point, but they are in first place. They have not lost in regulation. Are you surprised about the Penguins and their early success?
That's my biggest surprise. Because obviously they're missing like you said, their 2 best players. And I know I'm a Flyers fan. I'm a huge Flyers fan, and I get a lot of heat for this. but Sidney Crosby is my favorite player in the league.
Yeah, he's amazing, dude.
He's amazing. Like I've
Amazing.
him since 2005, since he came into the league. And obviously, when he plays the Flyers, I'm fully against him. But any other time, I'm always watching him, and I always watch videos of him. And not having them two, it's very surprising how they're doing.
It just shows how well that they play as a team all around. They always overperform. Like they never underperform. Mike Sullivan does a great job over there coaching that team. He gets the most out of everybody. And to your point about Sidney Crosby, like when I was younger, I was kind of like a little bit like, oh, screw him. But as I got older, I was kind of like, this guy is unbelievable. And now that he's like a mature adult, and you never see him complain, you're like, this guy is amazing. I was like, if I could have any player in the league outside of Connor McDavid, just because for the sheer fact he's younger, it would be Sidney Crosby. The guy does everything you want of him. He can be a 50-goal scorer. He can put up 80 assists in the league. He can play the toughest defensive positions. He can win faceoffs. He can lead your team. Like literally, he is a flawless type of player in the NHL. He's the best grinder I've ever seen in hockey. The NHL has never had a better grinder, in my opinion. Nope. Like he does everything. He wins every corner battle. So yeah, I have nothing against showing love to Sidney Crosby. The guy deserves it. All right. Here's my next surprise. The Detroit Red Wings are 2-0-1. I would say this is not the most surprising because Steve Yzerman has taken over and everything he touches turns to gold, it seems. He might be the smartest man in hockey to some degree. And Detroit, their only overtime loss is against Tampa Bay in a game that they were winning 6-3 at one point, and then lost that one in overtime to one of the best teams in the league. But they're starting off really strong. What do you think about Detroit? Is that surprising?
Not really, and I'm a little biased because there's a kid I actually know on their team. His name's Adam Ernie.
Oh yeah,
and I think he had 2 points last night, if I'm not mistaken. 2 points last night or the night before.
Let me look it up. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, and I played a lot of actually inline hockey with him this past summer, like mostly against him, but like got to talk to him a little bit. He's a great guy, so I've been following them ever since I played against him and stuff like that, and he's doing pretty well so far already in the beginning of this year. I know he's usually like a third or fourth line guy, but I think they're expecting like a little more out of him this year.
He actually had a goal and an assist. He had 2 points.
Yeah, 2.
He had a hell of a game. 3 shots on goal. He had 3 hits. He had 3 giveaways, but forgive him. But he did play 15 minutes, almost 16 minutes of ice time. So pretty good night for Ernie.
Yeah,
no doubt about that. I personally like seeing Lucas Raymond also had 2. Had 2 points also. But I personally really like seeing the Red Wings do well to some degree. They're such an iconic franchise, and I always saw them as this like pinnacle of the NHL, because they terrorized the Flyers in the playoffs. And just to see them be bad, it's almost like Buffalo. Like I don't like seeing teams do poorly that are like have been in the league for a long time. Like I don't know. Like the Sabres were never the best team, but to see them like not have their shit together bothers me. And then I'm pretty sure Yzerman's going to turn that whole situation around. It's obviously happening. So it is kind of good to see. Hopefully they don't get in our way. And the last surprise of the season, we'll end all this. The Chicago Blackhawks are 0-3-1. They just got their butts kicked to the Islanders 4-1 yesterday. Obviously, a team that made a bunch of changes, got Seth Jones, got Marc-Andre Fleury. I'm a little surprised that they started 0-3-1. I didn't expect them to come light the world on fire, but I did think they would get a win in the first 4 games. What do you think about Chicago? What do you think about?
Honestly, that is a complete shocker for me. Like I till right now, I didn't realize that they were doing that bad already.
Yeah.
Like That's crazy especially with them pickups, with all the talent they have and
Getting Taves back.
Blurry and stuff like that. That's pretty surprising, but that's a team that I definitely think will get their shit together and they'll figure it out.
I think so too. I think I don't, and that's why I put a caveat on all these things. You see the Sabres 3-0. Like if it's a 7-game series and you have the Sabres versus the Blackhawks, like I'm taking the Blackhawks easily in that series. So it's important to remember that you haven't played your full schedule yet, but just interesting to see how the season started off so far. And I'll throw it out there. I would not be surprised if the Flyers are in a top 2 position in this division at one point in the early portion of the season if they continue to play the way they played against Seattle. They don't have to play perfect, but if they play with that type of energy, I mean, I don't see why not.
I agree.
I think it is possible for this team to comfortably make the playoffs this year and not have to scramble for that last remaining spot.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's end on this. I do want to give a shout out to Jim Steaks. Thank you, Jim Steaks, for sponsoring us. Make sure you guys check out Jim Steaks. I, again, forgot to do it in the beginning of the podcast, second show in a row.
My favorite in the city.
All right.
There.
Yep. Well, that's our sponsor, man. And they do have banging ass cheesesteaks. Yeah, no doubt about that. So yeah, please get Jim Steaks. If you get any other cheesesteak, I will not be your friend. No, I'm just kidding. But definitely check out Jim Steaks. They are sponsors. They wanted to work with us because they're Flyers fans. So make sure to buy from them because they love the team and so do we. Ryan, is there anything that you want to tell the audience before you go? Maybe just check you out at Delaware Thunder games.
Yeah, I would say, just I play for the Delaware Thunder and we start training camp this upcoming week. And our first regular season game is in Carolina, but our first home weekend is November 5th and 6th, I'm pretty sure. If you guys anyone wants to come out, it would be great to support us and we would appreciate it.
That's awesome. And definitely get out to go see Ryan Marker. And we'll keep an eye on you. When you make it back to the ECHL, I'll have you back on to tell that success story.
That'll be a little reward.
Yeah. That would be awesome. All right. Thank you again, buddy. Thank you everybody for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe and share. Please share if you can. Definitely is a humongous help. Retweets, all that stuff, whatever you can do. It's a big deal. Check out the team store. Link is in the bio as well. Don't have to buy anything, but holidays are coming around, so maybe it'll come in handy. And also, just thank you everybody for listening and supporting. We're going to start ramping up coverage in general as we roll into the season. And thank you again, Ryan. Really appreciate it, buddy.
No problem. Always a pleasure.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Remember, stay gritty.